I believe.
Incoming! Both are incoming!
No, incoming now!
Oh, where am I?
You washed up.
Sorry?
Welcome to the island of discarded women, my friend.
I used to be somebody. Are you that woman on the radio?
Your island job is peladora de papas.
Sorry, what?
Potato peeler. 87% match for your skills.
Okay, that's not. Anyway, what is the second best match then?
Host of the Island Podcast.
Are you kidding me? No, see, that's me. That's perfect for me. That's the... Oh, wow, you guys. Wow, this feels like a bonfire night with everybody here on the beach.
Oh, Sue, we should totally have a bonfire. It's
Okay,
perfect weather.
yeah. No. We are on a burn ban. Remember?
I
Remember?
found Burning Man, a weekend-long, large-scale event
no.
held annually in Black Rock City, Nevada.
No, Mary. Burn ban.
Did you mean bourbon? A type
No.
of barrel-aged American
No,
whiskey
no.
made primarily from corn, otherwise known as maize.
No, but thank you anyway for trying, Mary.
Hey,
Thank you for
Shannon.
trying.
It's so great to see you.
Oh, yeah, thanks.
So good to see you.
Yeah.
You've been super busy at the Anger Hut, though,
Oh,
right?
yeah, off the charts.
I know. Lots of anger right now. Lots of anger.
Well, and it's more like, what is happening?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand what is happening.
Yeah, I get that. I totally get that. I
Oh,
totally
me
get
too.
that.
I get that.
Yeah, totally get that.
But you've been good though, right? Had a great summer?
Oh, yeah. Really, really good.
Yeah.
Different. Really different.
Okay.
But great. Yeah, I'll tell you all about it later.
Great, cool. Well, what about you, Sue?
Me. Well, summer. Let's see. Well, I had the shingles, but other than that,
I found shingles, a decorative, sturdy
yeah,
shelter
no.
from the weather for your roof.
No,
Shingles are
Mary,
installed
not
in
that kind of
overlapping
shingles.
mats.
not that kind of shingles.
Yeah.
Mary, not that kind of shingles. No,
I mean,
no.
but the shingles,
Yeah.
like the painful kind?
Yep. Yep. My fault. I hadn't gotten the vaccination yet.
Well, there are so many vaccinations.
I know there are too
now.
many vaccinations.
Yeah.
I know. But and you know what? Like I used to tease mercilessly those commercials.
The shingles.
Oh yeah, the
commercials?
shingles commercials. There's a million. You know, especially the one that starts with the woman. She's riding her bike, and she says to the camera, "Well, I exercise," and then her image freezes, and the voiceover comes in and goes, "Well, shingles doesn't care." And then there's another one where there's a guy goes, "Well, I eat healthy foods." Freeze frame. Shingles doesn't care.
Okay.
And on and on and on. And every time that ad comes on, I would yell at the TV, "Shingles, you need to care. Why don't you care, Shingles? You need to stop that and start caring." And I thought I was so funny. And bam, karma. It's a bitch.
Did you know Taylor Swift sings, "Karma is my boyfriend, karma is a god, karma is the breeze in my hair on the weekend."
Wow.
Taylor
okay.
Swift. Love that girl. She's the best.
Yeah.
So it's I know it's the chicken pox virus
Right.
that's just hiding inside everybody,
Right.
but what actually triggers shingles?
Yeah.
Stress.
Oh.
Well, they don't really know, and it could be all sorts of things, but stress is like high on the list.
Oh, and stress is so tough.
Stress is
You
really
deserve
tough.
to let go of stress and give space to peace.
Yeah, okay, you are so right, Mary, but that is so easier said than done. You know, this letting go of stress, this let go of stress.
Well, you know, Sue, I like to walk when I'm feeling stressed.
Well,
you could walk.
see, I know.
I do
That's
too.
good.
I like to walk or ride my bike.
Yes, you see, I like both of those things, see? But see, my problem is I end up stressing about trying to find time to release my stress. It's like, Sue, you have got to slow down right now. You've got to relax. Why don't you just take, right now, come on, stop doing this and go relax.
Yeah, I've done
and
that.
that doesn't do any good.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Yep. Okay, but if we were to bike, I mean, walking, sure, on the island, but if we were to bike, I mean, where would we bike? There's no paths or anything.
Well, just right on the beach.
In the sand.
Well, that would
really.
be really hard.
Oh, I mean, yes, it would definitely be a workout.
Well, yeah, but a little bit like a huffing and puffing workout?
No, but it would be good for you, for all of us.
Yeah, okay. But we wouldn't want to get bicycle face. You guys ever heard of bicycle face?
What are you talking about, Sue?
I'm sorry, just what did you just?
Yeah.
What do you? You said bicycle face?
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's actually called bicycle face syndrome. Mary, please find...
Bicycle face syndrome was first described in 1895 as a condition over the exertion and effort to maintain one's balance on a bicycle, leading to a wearied and exhausted bicycle face. A bicycle face is flushed, sometimes pale, often with lips drawn, with the beginning of dark shadows under the eyes, and always with an expression of weariness. Sometimes this condition can result in a hard clenched jaw and bulging eyes. This condition, especially in women, can become permanent.
Wait. You are making that up, Sue. You totally deprogrammed Mary. There's no way.
A real thing.
No way.
And they had all these women in 1895 believing if they rode bicycles, they would get bicycle faced. And their faces would freeze in a grimace and their eyes would bulge out and it would stay that way forever.
Okay. This is insane.
It is totally insane. It is, and you know the point of it? To stop women from enjoying the newfound freedom that bicycling brought to their lives. Of course. Yes. They could put a basket on the bike and they could ride to the store. And they wouldn't have to wait for the horse and carriage to come pick them up. Or they could enjoy some nature or be with friends or get some exercise, right? And fashions changed. Bloomers were created, right? Oh. And a certain segment of the population hated this. They wanted their wives at home. So bicycle face syndrome was created to scare women away from exercising this newfound freedom.
So they made up this stupid syndrome, and women bought it?
Yes, for several years. Mary. When was bicycle face syndrome finally debunked?
In 1897, Chicago doctor Sarah Hackett Stevenson said, "Cycling is not injurious to any part of the anatomy, as it improves the general health. The painfully anxious facial expression is seen only among beginners. As soon as a rider becomes proficient, can gauge her muscular strength, and acquires perfect confidence in her ability to balance herself and in her power of locomotion, this look passes away."
It took 2 years. 2 years for a doctor to debunk this idiotic, completely made up, fakey bicycle face syndrome to keep women at home thing. Because you know what? Bicycle face doesn't care.
Okay, well, I had never heard of that.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry about that because bicycle face doesn't care.
Why is it that every time women, are trying to exercise a little freedom, it's seen as a threat?
I know. Exercise your freedom at home, ladies, because bicycle face doesn't care.
Okay, Sue, you can stop that now.
I don't think I can. All I can think of is saying bicycle face doesn't care.
Okay, Mary, can you make her stop?
Yeah,
A la cara de bicicleta no le importa.
Now Mary's saying in Spanish.
Okay,
what has happened?
I think my voice is stuck. I think I have a syndrome now. I can't say anything else but bicycle face doesn't care.
Oh, well, try, Sue. You have to try.
No, I think she has the syndrome.
Try counting to 10. 10's a good number.
One bicycle, two
that's working.
bicycles.
Bicicleta, tres.
Breathe.
Bicicletas, cuatro. Bicicleta. Daisy, give me your answer, I'm so crazy, all for the love of you.
Everybody!
It won't be a stylish marriage. I can't afford a carriage, but you'll look sweet upon the seat of a bicycle built for two. For a bicycle built for two.
Thank you. Thank you, Zippy. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Dae. Thank you, Silvia. And now please welcome our musical guest. And here she is to sing a beautiful song from her new album, Jaspar Lepak.
When time was our friend, we were children as wild as the weeds. We were fearless and bold, strong queens of the desert, sun and heat. Without without a care in the world. We roamed through the streets. Your house was a few doors down, and you always welcomed me. I never had a friend like you, the kind that time throws your way. And I never knew how lucky I was until time tried to take you away. The games that we played, we were never afraid to dream. We were stronger than anyone knew, more powerful than we seemed. Adventure it called. You answered and traveled the world. And now you're the mother of two brave, beautiful girls. I never had a friend like you, the kind that time throws your way. And I never knew how lucky I was until time tried to take you away. I still hear the birds singing at first light. I still hear the dogs barking late into the night. Home was a place I knew because I had a friend like you. The secrets we hold, our bodies keep hidden inside. They betray all the plans we have made. They eat us alive. I wish I could know that heaven is real, that we will dream once again in that place where everything is healed. I never had a friend like you, the kind that time throws your way. And I never knew how lucky I was until time tried to take you away. Time tried to take you away. Time tried to take you.
Thank you, Jasper. Thank you for that beautiful song. So this song is about, it's a sort of a tribute to a friend of yours that you grew up with. Mm-hmm. You grew up in Tucson, Arizona.
I did.
As did I. Mm-hmm. Tell us what sort of motivated you to write this song.
So my friend Jen and I knew each other. We met when we were a year old. We were neighbors in Tucson. And we grew up together. Our moms had babies when we were 3. So our sisters were born, and the 4 of us just kind of spent our childhoods like going across the street between each other's houses. And they had all the really good toys. My mom wouldn't buy Barbies, but they had like every single one.
Oh, funny.
We also had fun things at our house too. My mom was really creative, so we had a lot of crafts and all that kind of stuff. So it was just like a really good balance. I felt so lucky to be a part of their family and to have them a part of our family. And she was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer in August of 2020.
And she did not survive that.
She did not.
And so this is sort of a tribute to how you want to remember, sort of remembering that time with her.
Yeah, and she was in treatment for almost 2 years before she passed away.
Wow.
And I wrote this song during that time, so I got to share it with her.
Oh, you did?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, great. Oh, great.
Yeah, I mean, because when you're a kid, you think everyone grows up the way you do.
Yeah.
And I felt so lucky to have that community as a child and to feel free and loved. And just like I belonged to a place, and her family and her friendship really gave that to me. And she was also... she traveled the world. She taught in China and Egypt, and she ended up in Bristol in the UK, and she asked me to sing this at her memorial, and I got to go out there last fall.
And you sang this. Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us, and that is, again, that's on your new album. Mm-hmm. Now, this next song that you're going to sing is from an earlier album of yours called Desert Ghost, speaking of Arizona. You were telling me you grew up in an evangelical church setting.
Yes.
And you got messages loud and clear that rock music and other certain kinds of music were bad. They were the devil's music.
Pretty much. I mean, and this wasn't coming from my parents. This was coming from the youth group. I went to private schools, and I really wanted to be devout and committed and be the best believer I could be.
Yeah, so you were buying it.
I was like listening to only Christian radio, and the oldies station was okay for some reason. So it was that combination. So, yeah.
And so then you were telling me that at some point somebody mentioned the Rolling Stones, and you were like, who? And that was like last year or something, wasn't it?
No.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. You were in your 20s.
I was in my 20s. Yeah, I feel like I just, a song would come on in a restaurant. I'd be like, who is this? And they'd be like, that's the Rolling Stones, or that's the Grateful Dead. And I'd be like, what are you talking about? I mean, I would pretend I knew what they were talking about. Because I missed a lot of music. And so I always felt like I was playing catch up, and I didn't start writing my own songs until my early 20s either. So it all just happened at the same time.
So then when you started writing your songs, you were just writing all these really heavy metal stuff, banger stuff, right? No, okay.
No, super vulnerable folk songs.
Okay, super vulnerable folk songs. Okay, that makes up for not knowing who the Rolling Stones were. So this song that you're going to sing, you were asked to write a song based on a poem, and the poem spurred on these memories of, oh yeah, I grew up not hearing rock music much.
Yeah, so I also grew up learning that a lot of things were labeled bad.
Yeah.
Like that's of the world, don't be of the world. Oh. And I missed out on a lot of good stuff that I'm trying to make up for now. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But you're going to read the poem and then sing the song.
Yeah, so the story behind this is I was actually asked to, I don't know this poet, her name is A.E. Stallings. She was giving a poetry lecture series in Seattle when I was living in Seattle, and I was asked to read her collection and write a song inspired by it and then open for her. And it was a super fun project, and I found this tiny poem in this book called Triolet on a Line, apocryphally ascribed to Martin Luther. And Martin Luther is the theologian who tacked those 95 theses to the door of the Catholic Church. And apparently he said, why should the devil get all the good music? Which is an excellent question. So A.E. Stallings wrote, why should the devil get all the good tunes, the booze and the neon and Saturday night, the swain in darkness, the lovers like spoons? Why should the devil get all the good tunes? Does he hum them to while away sad afternoons and the long, lonesome Sundays? or sing them for spite? Why should the devil get all the good tunes, the booze and the neon and Saturday night?
Yes, and now here singing Why Should the Devil Get All the Good Tunes that she wrote based on that poem is Jaspar Lepak.
So I borrowed some lines with permission. Why should the devil get all the good tunes? The booze and the neon and the rhythm and blues, the swaying in the darkness and the lovers like spoons. Why should the devil get all the good tunes? And why should the devil have all the real fun? The fire and the freedom and the coming undone, the Saturday nights and the beating of the drums. Why should the devil have all the real fun? My mama told me that the devil likes to dance, dressed up in the shadows, always looking for his chance. Snake in the garden, wanna change my plans. I think the devil is a music man. Why should the devil get all the good tunes? Does he sing them on Sunday in those dim lit rooms, rocking out the jukebox, making bad men swoon? Why should the devil get all the good tunes? Why should the devil want to steal my soul? This wretched bowl of lonesome and this need to be a whole, just a lost little puppy always looking for a home. Why should the devil want to steal my soul? My mama told me that the devil likes to dance, dressed up in the shadows, always looking for his chance. Snake in the garden, wanna change my plans. I think the devil is a music man. God's so good, why don't he have soul? Don't hear the music, wanna lose control. Feel the heavy rhythm, wanna rock and roll. God's so good, why don't he have soul? Why should the devil get all the good tunes? The songs that make you sweat, the songs that make you move, the songs that make you feel like you got nothing to lose. Why should the devil get all the good tunes? Why should the devil keep me up at night, whisper in my ear, do what I like, sounding so wrong but feeling so right? Why should the devil keep me up at night? My mama told me that the devil likes to dance, dressed up in the shadows, always looking for his chance. Snake in the garden, wanna change my plans. I think the devil is a music man. I think the devil is a music man. Why should the devil get all the good tunes? The booze and the neon and the rhythm and blues, the swaying in the darkness and the lovers like spoons. Why should the devil get all the good tunes? Thank you.
If you lay it all out from start to finish, then my mom's name is Pamelia McGraw Mattis Custer Nigani Benny Sikwe Wiltsey. My mom was supposed to be a boy named Michael. Her mother was so sure that she was going to have a boy that she went into a full-on panic in the cramped delivery room at the hospital in southern Los Angeles when my mother was born. And the doctor suggested the name Pamela because he liked the name Pam. My grandmother, we called her Nana, said okay, and there it was. Fate, I guess. Well, I guess there was one more stop. In the clerical shuffling at the hospital, Pamela became Pamelia because an admin, whom I pictured smoking while she typed on a typewriter under fluorescent lights, accidentally typed an I between the L and the A in Pamela. No one ever tried to fix it because people just lived with stuff back then. You know, it's bad luck. Mistakes like someone's name on a card were filed under, oh, well, that happened. Somewhat shocking now when you think about the outrage people express in very real ways online for things like, we had to wait a long time for our appetizers. And so Pamelia was born. The flat A of Pamela gave way to a more lyrical, flowery sound like amaryllis, Pamelia, sort of like ameliorate, which means to make or become better. Fate has a way of getting her point across. My mom grew up in LA, mostly getting by in school by telling everyone that her dad was Mexican. How else could her dark skin and hazel, almost yellow eyes make any sense? Most of the time, she was just complimented over and over by her blonde California classmates about her really gorgeous tan. My mom never knew her father, just a vague memory of being on a man's lap and playing with his hat. A good memory, but not exactly helpful, and possibly from a movie. So my mom grew up with her mother's name, McGraw, took her stepfather's name, Mattis, and then married a man named Custer when she was 17 years old. I was born 3 years later, Shanan Marie Custer. My brother was born 5 years after me, Daniel Lee Custer. And then we moved to Minnesota, where I discovered that when you came up for air while swimming, your lungs didn't hurt because the air was so clean. So Custer, as in Custer. As it turns out, I'm related. Oh, well, that happened. Custer is my great-great-great-great-great uncle, something. Someone in my dad's family did the research and shared it at Christmas one year, and not the 23andMe situation where you spit in the tube. This was pre-internet with interviews, civic records, library visits, microfiche. This family discovery was well after I learned about General George Armstrong Custer in my 7th grade American history class. My teacher, Mr. Fink, was so excited to finally be able to ask me if good old General George was a relation. That's how he said it, too. Are you a relation? Like we were in a saloon somewhere. Mr. Fink started his whole lecture with that famous photo of Custer, the one that is on every book written about him, and he sort of half slid, half tossed the transparency onto the overhead projector. And yes, I just said overhead projector. Google it. I give you General George Armstrong Custer. That's how Mr. Fink said it. I give you. What if we don't want him? Now, students, this is a very famous photograph of General Custer that he liked because it showed off his strong profile. He was also proud of his hair, the blondness of it in particular. And every time that Mr. Fink said Custer that day, which was a significant number of times, I leaned a little closer to my spiral notebook, the one with the baby St. Bernard puppies on it in a basket. And every time Mr. Fink shared another fact about this man that made me cringe, I hunched over a little more at my desk. My name an indictment, my own blondness, suddenly evidence. So many of the facts about Custer's reign became darkly funny when you think about his end. Custer went to West Point, but was a mediocre student, wasn't very bright. He didn't read maps very well, and failed to even make general right away. But you guessed it, he thought he was better than he was. Mr. Fink actually made a joke about how Custer just didn't have an Achilles heel, he was an Achilles heel. A strike that I have never forgotten. I should mention that I loved Mr. Fink's American history class and Mr. Fink. He didn't pull any punches, as my grandpa James Custer would say. White guys were not safe in Mr. Fink's class. His walls were filled with posters of black leaders and women, you know, history. I slouched over my notebook a little more and wrote, "Not smart." Custer's wife, Elizabeth, was enraptured with him, even writing his biography, charmingly named Boots and Saddles. Yes, I own it, and yeah, I read it. Elizabeth relies more on what she thought he was than what he was. And I wrote in my notebook, "Wife Elizabeth lied." Mr. Fink continued, "Custer actually did better in the Civil War than was expected." The lines of my notebook were blurring. It said Custer notes in my loopy 7th grade cursive at the top of the page, and I started underlining it every time I learned a new fact. Lakota and Cheyenne warriors, 5,000 Sioux, 1876, decided to go a day early. Plans didn't account for the military expertise of Indians. 210 dead, including Custer's brother, Tom Custer. Including Custer's brother, Tom. Tom Custer. My father's brother is Tom. My uncle is Tom Custer. I had to take the little lead in my strawberry-scented pencil and replace it by pushing it through the back. Breathe. I felt a little sick. Annihilated. Custer's last stand. Battle of the Little Big Horn. Crazy Horse. Sitting Bull. They went after women and children. I can't see the page anymore. Led an anti-Lakota expedition with General Crook. General Crook? Crook and Custer were friends. My mom's sister married a man named Crook. Those were my cousins, the Crooks. Wait, Custer's wife was named Elizabeth. My Uncle Tom's wife is named Elizabeth. Tom Custer and Elizabeth Custer. I stopped taking notes. It was like that thing everyone always talked about during family dinners, the coincidences between Kennedy and Lincoln. Do you know this? Both were killed on a Friday, shot in the head, succeeded by men named Johnson. So Shannon, said Mr. Fink, I have been wanting to ask this all quarter. Are you a relation? Was I a relation? A year before, we moved to Minnesota from our California suburb to a small town named Buffalo. What I didn't know that day in Mr. Fink's American history class was that when summer came, a very tall, indigenous man would come to our front door, which was weird because no one ever used the front door. You always just came in through the sliding glass door on the side, off the deck. And when this man came to our front door and I saw the color of his eyes, hazel, almost yellow, I said before he even spoke, "You want my mom, don't you?" And he nodded. As it turned out, my parents were at their bowling league that night. It was the 80s, after all. And when my mom's cousin Leon walked into the bowling alley, she walked right up to him and said, "You're looking for me, aren't you?" Because she had never seen anyone who looked like her before. Just that memory of that man with the hat. Her cousin Leon drove what he called a res car all the way from Oklahoma to give my mom pictures of her father who had just died. The car only went up to 50 miles an hour, so it took him a long time. The pictures were loose in an old shoebox, and my mom's dad's name was Sylvester. Her family name is Youngblood. They are Cherokee. She is Cherokee. So my mom is an indigenous woman, and she says this out loud now. She knew some of this, not all of this growing up. It was just easier to nod and smile, to let other people decide. She is mixed race, as her mother was Irish. She passes, as in, "Oh, Pam, I love your tan." She code switches on a daily basis, but she did not grow up with these descriptors. This was not that sort of, I'm pretty sure we have Indian blood that seems to pepper so many conversations in Minnesota families. We had a shoebox of pictures to prove it. Pamelia was an honest-to-God Indian, an Indian named Custer. So Shannon, are you a relation? When my mom talked to her Aunt Sophie for the first time, my mom introduced herself, winding the olive green phone cord over her finger so that the tip of her finger turned white. "Hi, this is Pamelia, Pam Custer." And Aunt Sophie, 86 years old at the time, laughed so hard that my mom had to pull the phone away from her ear. "Oh, sweetie," she cackled. "I knew we'd get him eventually." I was there at my mother's naming ceremony. This was years later, of course. My parents were divorced by then. She had left Custer behind. I wasn't so lucky. Yes, Mr. Fink. Yes, lady at the bank. Yes, Facebook. As it turns out, I am a relation. I've been married and divorced and remarried myself, and during that time I tried to get rid of the name Custer, but that didn't work out. I'm stuck with this name, my father's name, General George's name, the guy who couldn't read maps. I want to make my own name. I want an error on a typed card, something to give me an out. I don't like being named Custer, but oh well, that happened. At the naming ceremony, I watched my mom become Nigani Beni Sikwe, which means head thunderbird woman. It smelled like sweetgrass and cinnamon that day, and my mom cried. "So, Shannon," said Mr. Fink, standing in front of a poster of Toni Morrison, "are you a relation?" "No, I don't think so," I said, because at the time, in that 7th grade history class, I didn't know any better. But fate had other plans, and when my mom, Pamelia McGraw, Mattis Custer, Nigani Beni Sikwe, Wiltsey, got married for the second and last time, it smelled like sweetgrass and cinnamon. It was my turn to cry, because she was finally happy, and she knew exactly who she was.
Shannon, thank you so much for that. Thank you so much. Ooh, I'm touched. Okay, Jaspar Lepak is back with her guitar. And this next song, Jaspar, is the title song off your new album,
Yes.
So Strong. And just give us a quick impetus. What was the impetus for this song?
It was a book, actually, the book called Like a Mother by Angela Garbez, which I recommend strongly to everyone. about pregnancy and the culture and science of pregnancy. And she had a section in her book where she talked about that pressure that we put on women to return to their pre-pregnancy shape after they have a baby, and how it is so wrong. Like, to go back to who you were doesn't make any sense. And when I read this book, I had my daughter about a year earlier, and I felt like the song had been waiting to be written, because after I had given birth, I had never felt so strong in my body.
Yeah.
And what accompanied that newfound sense of strength was this feeling of shame that I looked different. And I just wanted to write a song that spoke to that lie. Like, it's, I don't know, kind of like the bicycle face.
Yeah, right. No, I know. Yeah, exactly.
You have this new strength, and immediately our culture just diminishes it and makes you feel small and doesn't give you room to embrace it. So I wanted to write a song called So Strong.
Yeah, exactly. Beautiful. Here's Jaspar Lepak with Zippy Laske backing up. So Strong.
It strikes like lightning, shatters the sky, rolls through you like thunder, cracks your world open wide. You ride the waves as you push through the pain. You have never felt so strong. It pulls like quicksand, swallows the ground. You're caught in a riptide. You can't swim your way out. You lean into the flow as you learn to let go. You have never felt so strong. But the world doesn't want your strength. It expects you to find your way back to your old shape, to your old shape. It moves like a river, sweeps you away. Say goodbye to your old self. You will never be the same. You are more than you were. You give more than you take. You have never felt so strong. But the world doesn't want your strength. It expects you to find your way back to your old shape, to your old shape. And then she's with you, pressed to your skin, her eyes wide open, just taking you in. You hold her gaze, so in love and so amazed. You have never felt so strong. You have never felt so strong. But the world doesn't want your strength. It expects you to find your way back to your old shape, to your old shape, to your old shape, and forget your strength.
Thank you, Jaspar. Thank you so much. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. So, feeling the heartbreak that is permeating so much of the news right now, and as I try to pay attention, right, and look for opportunities to get involved, or maybe send in donations, or reach out to friends who might be directly affected by these tragedies, both nationally and globally, I keep wondering if there's a way to remain hopeful and to actually allow ourselves to celebrate possibilities.
So, I had my baby this past September on the 8th. That means she'll be 3 months tomorrow. And wow, does time fly by. At 2 months, I had to get out her 3 to 6 months clothing because she no longer fit 0 to 3. She just arrived in this world, and clothing, which of course at the time I wasn't even thinking of looking at, was already being unpacked. I didn't even get to cycle through all her outfits, which was unbelievable because I did not buy her a plethora of 0 to 3 outfits. I was simply taking my sweet time, getting to her cute little onesies and pattern-footed PJs, thinking I had more time. Well, it wasn't that I didn't have time. It's that my daughter was growing faster than I thought she would, which is great. I just had a moment. I'm embarrassed to admit it, but I cried. I know I did. It's silly. I cried while I changed her, feeling both happy and sad. You see, when she was born, she spiked a fever not even 48 hours old and had to be sent to the NICU. And she just looked so tiny and little in the newborn clothing we borrowed. And those days that felt so long waiting for good news to take her home were now a thing of the past. She had grown so much. She was thriving and was a healthy baby. And my mind just leaped, thinking about how, before I knew it, she's going to be off to college and chasing down this entire world. Her dreams. God, I hope she chases her dreams. I named her Clarity, after her Hmong name, Shityi, which translates to bright heart. If you're wondering, there aren't any correlations with these words. It's more that clarity fits our intentions of the name Shityi. In the Hmong culture, names are spiritually very important. Your name is your base as a person. So for example, my name is Dae Yang, which means water falling smoothly, like the way a waterfall falls. My mom wanted me to be able to flow like the water, but be strong enough to erode troubles that I may encounter. When I thought about my child going through life and the struggles she may face, I hoped that her own strength would be what gave her light in the darkness. And whatever path she chooses to take in life, she would shine. That's what Shityi invoked for us. Her name is the blessing my husband and I gave her before she was born. This blessing was given thinking about the infinite possibilities she could have. And as much as I wish time could slow down, I am so excited to see what she becomes. Will she be an actor like her mom, or an artist like her dad? Will she be passionate and industrious, or will she be quiet and observant? Will she go into the STEM field? What if she completely pivots and becomes a zoologist? Will she like spreadsheets? It's a real question, because we like spreadsheets. Regardless, she has the whole world to explore with her big, bright heart. And she will have us by her side every step of the way in her name. Clarity, Shityi, Hyung.
It was like a dream when I opened my eyes there in front of me. Like a carnival ride, possibilities floating up in the sky, sky, sky. It occurred to me, there's still so far to go. All the magic we have yet to know feels impossible, but I will try to do one possible thing each day to make the world a better place. Is it going slow or skipping stones, helping small things grow? Oh, I'll keep searching far and wide for what's right beneath my nose. Is it down in the ground? possibilities take flight.
What is possible? I looked up the word possible, and the first part of the definition is able to be done. What is able to be done? This is a time when it seems like many things should be possible, should be able to be done. Passing the ERA so women can be in the Constitution. Restoring reproductive rights. Not electing a criminal autocrat. And yet things don't always feel possible. So what's possible? What feels possible? Keep trying. Just keep trying. That's possible for me. That I can do.
It occurred to me, there's still so far to go. All the magic we have yet to know feels impossible. But I will try.
Okay, well, what's possible for me? I'm looking forward to becoming a happy person. Yeah. See, my father-in-law, who was like a father to me, recently passed away. If I could describe him to you, I would say that he fought bravely in the trenches of Korea when he was 18 years old, and that he faithfully took care of his wife all his life, because when they were newlyweds, she got a terrible disease that would live with them for the rest of their lives. I also can tell you that he was a living miracle who had undergone 3 major surgeries, heart surgeries, and lost his leg because of diabetes. He passed away at 92. But the most people remember about him is that he was the happiest man alive. It's true. He never complained about a thing. Whenever he was out, he always made new friends. The waiters, the cooks, kids, puppies, and even grumpy people. Especially grumpy people. Yeah, he would always make people laugh. He was always making someone's day. Even the day before he passed, during hospice, he was telling jokes and made everybody laugh. That's who he was. And that always intrigued me, especially in the last few days. I always thought, how could a person be happy even on their deathbed? Look, I don't know about you, but if a genie asks me today what my wish is, I would say, I want to be happy, right? Forget about riches and if they will make me unhappy, right? Simple. So, because I have no genie, I decided to find out how achievable happiness is, if that's a possibility. So in my quest, I came across a book by Arthur Brooks, a Harvard professor who teaches happiness from a neuroscientific perspective and explains that humans' natural state is happy. We can see it in toddlers. We were delightfully happy at one point, but we forgot. So, I'm learning that happiness is not a feeling. Happiness, like love, is action. With some practice, we all can be not only happy, but happier each and every day. I am excited about the future because I see now what is achievable, what is possible. And I imagine my father-in-law nodding and smiling at me as I make my way to become a happier person.
It was like a dream when I opened my eyes there in front of me. Like a carnival ride, possibilities floating up in the sky, sky, sky. It occurred to me, there's still so far to go. All the magic we have yet to know feels impossible. but I will try to do one possible thing each day to make the world a better place.
When I think about what's possible, I think about the newly elected members of the St. Paul City Council, which is now an all-female council. And it's not only that the 7 members of the council are mostly women of color, or that they're all under 40, or that this is the only city in the country the size of St. Paul with an all-female council. It's all of it. Yes, when I think about what's possible, I think about our city, the city I live in, and Dae and Silvia live there too, St. Louis Park. It's an inner ring suburb bordering Minneapolis, who just elected a young Somali American woman named Nadia Mohammed to be our new mayor. It's not only that Nadia is the first black mayor of St. Louis Park, or that she was first elected to the city council at 23 years old, and now at 27, she will be our new mayor, or that she is the first Somali American female to be elected mayor in U.S. history. It's all of it. When I think about what's possible, I think about Claudia Golden, the 77-year-old professor from Harvard who just won the Nobel Prize in Economics for her research in, wait for it, the gender pay gap. It's not only that she's just the 3rd woman in history to win the Nobel Prize in Economics, or that she's being lauded for her decades of studies done on the cause of pay disparities between genders, or that she's still very actively teaching at Harvard. It's all of it. When I think about what's possible, I think about 33-year-old Taylor Swift. It's not only that she's a gazillion award-winning superstar, or that she was just named Time Magazine's Person of the Year, or that she is actively and aggressively encouraging her young followers to register to vote, which they are doing in droves, prompting several Republican congressmen to call for the raising of the voting age to 30. It's all of it, right? Okay, Taylor Swift is Person of the Year. Liz Cheney sits down with Rachel Maddow. Amidst this heartbreak globally and the heated confusion nationally, there are possibilities worth celebrating. Yes.
Is it going slow or skipping stones, helping small things grow? I keep searching far and wide for what's right beneath my nose, laying down in the grass, feeling the world spinning fast. Oh, if time flies by, oh, if time flies by, can possibilities take flight? It was like a dream when I opened my eyes.
Zippy Laske. Thank you. Thank you to Dae Yang, Silvia Pontaza, Shanan Custer. Thank you. Okay, so thinking about possibilities, as we know, there's this concerted effort for many in the country, and including the fierce advocates in the room tonight, to finally pass an equal rights amendment. Yes. And the ultimate goal, of course, is an amendment to the U.S. Constitution, of course. But in the meantime, until that happens, states are taking matters into their own hands, right? And then to refresh our memories of this 100-year journey, we bring you The Ballad of the ERA.
The ERA, it's coming for ya, that ERA.
In 1923, the Equal Rights Amendment was first introduced to Congress by Alice Paul and Crystal Eastman. Both were suffragists. They had just gained the vote 3 years prior with the successful 19th Amendment and believed the next step towards full equality for women and men meant passing the ERA. But it didn't happen because everyone was frightened of what equal rights really meant.
The ERA, it's so scary, that ERA.
So they tried again in the 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s too. But it went down every time since no one could agree as to what exactly to do with the ERA. Isn't equal rights in the Constitution, the 14th Amendment? Don't women need special provisions because they're women? Are we really equal?
The ERA, do we really need it? That ERA.
The second wave came in the 1970s with stars like Steinem, Friedan, and Chisholm. In 72, it passed both houses and was sent to the states for ratification. They need 38 states to approve, but by the deadline, just 35 were a lock. The only one happy was Phyllis Schlafly, who convinced others to block the ERA against their own best interests. While she traveled around the country telling women to stay home and raise their children, her husband stayed home and raised their children. What was she afraid of? Herself?
The ERA, it's too much freedom, that ERA.
In 77, Rosalind Carter said yes, and Betty Ford with Coretta Scott King too. And President Jimmy signed a bill to extend the deadline till 82 for ratifying the ERA. There was International Women's Year, the National Women's Conference, Women's Equality Day. Proclamations were everywhere. But ratification, still elusive.
The ERA, it's just too hard, that ERA.
Since then, tireless advocates like our own Betty Folliard have kept the pressure mounting. And in 2020, Virginia became the 38th state. Woo! But the archivist said he would not be counting the ERA as an official amendment to the Constitution. Other states have since rescinded, he said, even if that's not constitutional. Yep, one guy in an office, afraid of equality, not taking his calls, probably hiding under a desk.
The ERA, I thought we passed it, that ERA.
So now with authors like Mary Kunesh, Minnesota will pass their own bill. Navigating myths and tactics to stall, but showing a true voice of will to pass the ERA.
Equality under the law shall not be abridged or denied by this state or any of its cities, counties, or other political subdivisions on account of race, color, creed, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, age, disability, ancestry, or national origin.
The ERA, it'll make us equal, that ERA.
60% of Minnesotans are for it.
The ERA, the time is right to pass the ERA.
Rosalind Carter and Betty Ford, think about it.
ERA, it's so bipartisan, that ERA.
We all want to feel seen, right?
The ERA, we're gonna pass it, that ERA. ERA.
It's just equality for everyone.
ERA. It's coming for ya. That ERA.
Jaspar Lepak, thank you so much for that. Now please help me welcome my guest for the conversation, Mary Kunesh. Come on, Mary.
Thank you. This has been just fabulous. What an entertainment.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, all of you that prepared so hard, and that song
That's
was
what we do. We're
fabulous.
discarded women. We do this. This is what we do. Okay, so I'm just going to go through a little bit of your bio before I start asking you some questions. So you are currently a Minnesota State Senator.
Yes.
Having been first elected to the Minnesota House in 2016 and then to the Senate in 2020. Yeah. You are a descendant of the Standing Rock Lakota tribe.
Yep.
And you are the first Indigenous woman to serve in the Minnesota Senate.
Yes.
You are also the founding member of the Native American and People of Color and Indigenous caucuses. Mm-hmm. You are the Senate author, need I say, of the Minnesota ERA bill. That's coming up this next session, right? You were an educator in the public school system for over 25 years, yep. And you were a middle school library specialist.
Library media specialist.
Oh, library media specialist.
I've got one
right.
There's one in the audience, another one in the audience that I work with.
A library
She
media
came to see us.
specialist?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
We'll have a special show just about library media specialists. And this informs your views to and your desire to fully fund education for all children in Minnesota.
100%.
Yeah. Adding to your advocacy for Native issues and gender justice, your focus includes protecting our environment for future generations, ending gun violence, please, and strengthening family economic security. Well, I want to ask you about that in a second, but I want to jump right in with the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women Task Force. Yeah. Okay, so this was your idea to create a task force here in Minnesota. You were a newly elected, you were a freshman representative in 2016, and you were influenced by a study you saw done in Canada about this issue.
Yep.
And it was like, hey, this is a crisis. Why can't we do this here? Known as paying attention to the generational trauma affecting Native women, girls, and Two-Spirit people. Mm-hmm. And at the time, the House was led by Republicans.
Yep.
And they wanted data and facts.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, all right, damn it, we'll give you data and facts. So you put together this amazing process. I read, it's like 100 pages long, their report that they came up with 2 years later. It's so comprehensive. Tell us a little bit about just sort of your initial impetus to start the task force and to treat this crisis head on.
Yeah, it was. It really was sort of an awakening to me what my role as a legislator could be or should be. But I had just completed my first session in the Minnesota House. I was in the minority, and that summer I listened to a report from the BBC on Canada's report on their missing and murdered Indigenous women. And the whole trauma, the generational trauma, the murders and the missing women was not new to me, but there had never been any kind of concerted effort to really pay attention to it. Yeah. And so I listened to that report and thought, man, oh man, we need to do something about this. And then that was the same summer that a young woman up in the Fargo-Moorhead went missing. Savannah Gray Wynn LaFontaine. Yeah. She was 28 years old, right. 8 months pregnant. Right. Went to, a neighbor called her, asked her to come up and visit them. She went up there, and from that point on, nobody saw her alive again. And the family was concerned, her partner was concerned. They called the police. The police said, just give her some time. You need to wait a while. We'll figure it out. Well, days went by, and within Indian country, we were all hearing about that. People had actually started to go out and look for her themselves, but it was not until they found her body floating in the river. and the baby had been cut from her womb.
Yeah, right.
And the sensationalism of it
Right.
made the media start to pay attention.
Wow.
The baby was found in the home of those neighbors. They had conspired to steal her baby and throw her away. And that's kind of the story of our Native people.
Right.
And so with that report and that situation, I thought, and then North Dakota all of a sudden put together this legislation, and I thought, oh my God, if North Dakota is doing this,
Yeah, right. Hello.
Minnesota,
Hello.
if Canada is doing this, why are we not doing that? And then I kind of had this epiphany and thought, oh, that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
That's my job.
Yeah.
And
you
so,
did it.
And I did it. Yeah, I did it.
I know. And what was so great is you were saying there again, she's a freshman representative in the party in the minority. And you were talking about, well, I was new, but I also just figured out very quickly how to make friends or how to compromise or how to reach across the aisle kind of a thing. And you were very effective.
Yeah, I still to this day am kind of blown away when I look back because it was not easy. I didn't know the process. There wasn't a step-by-step, here's how you create a task force.
Yeah.
But I did go out into the community and I gathered up a lot of our Native folks that were all doing the work around violence against women and asked them to come meet with me. And we had this huge table of women. We had people on the phone. That was before Zoom. And I said, if we do this bill, what would you like it to look like? What is the objective? What do you want the outcomes to be? And who would you want to be on this task force? And they really are the ones that guided the legislation and refined all of it.
Yeah.
And as we were in a split legislature, I had to find a way to bring all of these people together.
Yes, right.
And it was not easy, but it was like destined to be because I would get to a dead end and I couldn't get a hearing and somehow a door would open, something would happen and we'd scurry through that. And it was just a maze until the second year when we finally got a hearing. And it was because, so I grew up in Sartell, and there is a state representative, O'Driscoll, and he grew up with my family. His father was the local police officer, so there was many a time he drove up the alley to our house. I have a lot of brothers, and so we knew the family, and he came to me and he said, I know how important this bill is to you. I know how important this bill is to your family. I will hear your bill.
Wow.
So he literally heard the bill the last day before our deadline. It was the last hearing of the day, and the room was packed. The hearing room was packed.
Yeah.
And there were, folks came in to hear this bill, and there was hardly a dry eye in the room. We had a number of Native women come and tell their stories. Some, their grandmothers, their aunties, their sister, they themselves, had been abducted, raped, beaten, left for dead, and survived to tell the story.
Wow.
And that moved this whole process.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, congratulations. For sticking with it. And as you said, you sort of felt that this was sort of your mission, your passion.
Yeah.
But it was successful. Mm-hmm. And it's being implemented now.
Yep.
And there was a recent search in Bemidji.
Yeah.
It was sort of what the task force had been working on for 2 years. It was that in play.
Yeah, it was incredible. There's a young woman, Nadia, that went missing. And at the end of our task force is a whole list of objectives that we want to continue to work on. And the number one thing was to create a permanent office of missing and murdered Indigenous relatives. And we did that.
Yes.
So now we have this brilliant director, Juliet Rudy, and she's put together an incredible staff. They organized a search up in Bemidji for Nadia to find any kind of evidence. And they brought in the community, they brought in the Indigenous tribes, they brought in search dogs and organizations that are national search teams. And it was incredible. It was just like walking into a war war room.
Wow.
And the organization and the sophistication of the process was just mind-boggling to me. But I hope that this is what we're going to see again and again. The beginning of really making sure that we're paying attention when somebody goes missing like that.
Wow. So your mother is Lakota.
Yep.
And your dad is not Indigenous.
Nope.
Yep.
No, he's Scottish and Czech.
Scottish and Czech.
Yeah.
But you said he's an AIM card carrying member from like teenager or something.
The very beginning.
Yeah.
And I have his original card.
Oh, you do?
I have his original AIM card, and it never expires. And so
it doesn't?
No, so
I'll get him.
I've got it hanging. I've got it hanging on my refrigerator in a baggie.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Sweet.
He was my mother's father was a very gregarious, very handsome man. Everybody loved Ted Kelly, and my father really adored him as well, and was very, very sympathetic and interested in the stories that he had to share of his life, and his family had experienced the boarding school and relocation and all of those things. And he was a fierce advocate for the Indigenous issues at that day.
Yeah.
Did a lot of work with the tribes,
He was
pro bono. And,
he was a lawyer.
Yeah, he was a lawyer. He was at one time city attorney for St. Cloud and Stearns County attorney. But he did a lot of work with the tribes, never charged them anything for it. And he used to take us up to the different reservations when he was doing his work when we were little kids. So I come from a family of 13 children. And I think my dad looked for opportunities to get us kids out of the house to give my mom a break. Yeah. And he would load us into the Volkswagen van and take us all over the place. And I remember him taking us up to some of the reservations, to the smelt fries, to the powwows. And I remember one time, and I think it was Mille Lacs, where we were driving through the backwoods, and the homes there were really hardly more than a shack, and the roads were not paved. And we thought it was kind of cool. Wouldn't it be cool to live out here in these woods?
Yeah.
But one thing that happened is as we drove down the roads, if there was anybody out in front, and especially kids, when our car started to drive up, they would all scatter. Oh. And I remember us asking, like, why are they running away from us, a car full of kids? And that's when my dad told us about how social workers and religious orders or whatever would come up to the home, look at it, say this is unfit for children, and just take the children and put them into foster care. Minnesota has the highest rate to this day of removal of Native kids from their homes, put into the foster care system permanently, and then adopted out. And that's another thing that I work on is ICWA and the Minnesota Indian Preservation Act. But I'll never forget that. We just thought that was the most horrible thing.
Yeah, right.
And it is. It is absolutely
But
horrible.
I mean, that it sort of left you an impression with you as far as... you shared it's on your website too, and you share a personal story about some 25 years ago when you were, and this has informed a lot of what you're focused on in the legislation as well as far as economic security. You were a newly single mother of 3, and you were going to school to complete your teaching degree.
Yep.
And you had a job lined up, and then because of circumstances, that job was put on hold unexpectedly, which left you with no income.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And you had 3 kids and rent. And you finally decided to reach out for assistance. But that was a really, really hard decision for you.
Yeah, I mean, back in the day and even to this day, taking welfare, taking money from the state government is, seen as sort of the shameful, embarrassed sort of thing. Yeah, I had just finished I was 35 years old, 3 kids, and finished my teaching degree in December. And I had lined up a job with Minneapolis Public Schools, but then the government went on shutdown. And I couldn't apply.
What year was that?
So that would have been 95, 90, early 96.
Okay.
And, I had saved enough money. I'd been doing childcare, home daycare, and saved up enough money so I could do my student teaching, because when you student teach, you don't get paid.
Right.
You're working full time,
Right.
and then you're coming home and getting everything ready. And so I thought I had saved up enough money, but by that December, and I looked at my checkbook, it was like, wow, this is going to be really, there's no way I'm going to do this if I can't get a teaching job. So I did. I went down and applied for welfare, and because of the work that my dad had done, I remember him at one time saying, assistance is not something to be shameful. It's there to help you when you need the help. Not a way of life, but people should not be ashamed to ask for that money. And that really resounded in my mind. And I mean, what other choices did I really have?
You used the word fill in the gap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then you did get your teaching license, and you did become a teacher.
Yeah,
Or
for
a
25
middle
years.
school media
Specialist.
library media specialist.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now that we're in your sort of personal life, in June of 2022, the Star Tribune did an article that profiled a handful of people, and you're one of them. And the title was "Life Before Roe v. Wade." And people are sharing their stories about tricky, illegal abortions. And you shared a very personal story of, at 17, you were sexually assaulted.
Yep.
And that resulted in a pregnancy.
Yep.
And you weren't sure what to do, who to tell. You had gotten the message loud and clear from your mother that all you girls were never to get pregnant, or there would be what did you call it? A
terrible estrangement.
Terrible estrangement.
Quote unquote.
Right. So, of course, that didn't feel like an open door for you.
No way.
But you finally told your sister, and she told you to go to Planned Parenthood.
Yeah, so I was still living, in Sartell, St. Cloud, and I really didn't know what to do. And as I said, I came from this really large family, and my mom did the best that she could. But she was not the kind of woman that you could go to, and you never talked about your bodies. You never talked about menstruation or anything about your body. And my oldest sister was almost like a second mom to me. She was just a wonderful, wonderful human being. And she, at one point, brought home that book, Our Bodies Ourselves.
Yes, sure.
And she had to keep it hidden between the mattress.
No.
But she brought it out and showed it to us. And we saw the pictures and read things that we never, who even knew that your body does those things or look like that, and all of that.
It happened to your mother at least 13 times.
Yes, at least. So she was the one that I went to. There were things that were happening to my body that I didn't understand, and I was having some major pain.
Well, it turned out you were having ectopic pregnancy.
Yeah, so she lived, at that time, she was married and lived down in Red Wing. And so I talked to her and I explained what happened. I hadn't told anybody what had happened. It's just one of those things you sort of bury away.
Sure.
And she's the one that took me to Planned Parenthood, because I didn't know if my parents had insurance, and I wasn't going to go to the doctor in St. Cloud, because then they would call my mom and dad.
Right.
And I didn't have money. She didn't have money. So we went to Planned Parenthood. They did an exam. They sent me to another clinic where they confirmed the ectopic pregnancy. I didn't even know what that was.
Sure, right.
And
you're 17.
Yeah.
You're 17,
Long story short,
you could have died.
I could have died, and the pain was pretty intense, and they helped me with it.
Yeah.
They gave me some medication and looked over me, and my sister took care of me, and we never told anybody. It was her and me.
Oh, you didn't tell anybody.
I hadn't told anybody. In fact,
You just told
my
all.
son is here.
Yeah.
And it really wasn't until the Me Too movement came and people were putting their stories out there. And on social media, once I tweeted something like, maybe someday I'll tell my story. And
And then everybody goes, no, tell it now.
well, nobody really said anything until
They didn't say
I was
that?
on camera
Oh.
with a reporter, and they're like, "Well, I read this on your thing. You said someday I'll tell my story. What is your story?" And I was like deer in the headlight, like, "Oh my God, I couldn't deal with it at that
The
moment.
great estrangement, it's going to happen. The great estrangement is going to happen.
And she could tell I was jarred, and we went on to something else. But it wasn't until I went through a divorce and I was talking to a counselor, and for some reason, I just blurted it all out and got it all out. And this just wasn't like in the last 3 or 4 years.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah. So that secret was tight to my sister and me, and she has since passed away from a brain tumor. And so in a way, that story kind of died with her. But because of the Me Too movement, because of the sensitivity and people not blaming you for circumstances that were beyond your control, I've been able to start to deal with it. And it does feel like a huge weight has been lifted off of my shoulders.
That's terrific.
When you bury something that deep and for so long, it's a hard thing, and I'm just very thankful that at some point I'm able to talk about it in public.
Yes. But no, I know it's very courageous.
Yeah,
and you were telling me that one of the things that came up for you, even when you were doing this article with the Tribune, was thinking about the 17-year-olds in certain states around the country now who don't have a Planned Parenthood to go to.
It's so interesting being at the legislature because oftentimes we legislate from our life experiences and our learned experiences and the stories that people bring to us and tell us like their deepest, darkest things and are asking for help. And, I just feel really fortunate to be in this time, in this place, and in this position to make a change, make a difference, listen to them, and then hopefully make some positive changes.
Well, the last thing I want to ask you about, talk about making positive changes, is getting this ERA bill passed.
Yes. Well,
how do you feel about that, the possibilities?
I'm really optimistic, but this is not the first time that I have passed an ERA bill. When I was in the Minnesota House, we actually passed the old traditional ERA. We changed the word sex to gender, and our Republicans on the other side really had an issue with that word gender.
Oh, yeah.
They just didn't understand
so scary.
gender.
So scary.
Why can't we just say sex?
Yeah.
We had to go through the whole explanation, and then they distorted it and made it really ugly and that sort of thing. But at the end of the day, it did pass off the floor of the House.
Oh, okay.
So I passed it once in the House. This past year, I passed it off the floor of the Senate.
Yeah.
So it's up to the House to bring it up. They can amend it. There is a team of lawyers and activists and all kinds of groups looking at it now, fine-tuning it, and hopefully the House will pass it off of their floor. And if we can either bring it back to the Senate as amended and vote on it again, so that would be the third time I would pass an ERA bill. But this does not put the ERA automatically into our Constitution. No. What this does is it puts the statement on the ballot. Yeah. And then in the next election, the people of Minnesota can check that box that said, yes, we want this.
And they will.
Yes.
Because the poll says 60% want that box, want that amendment. Well, thank you, Mary, for coming today.
Oh, it's been my pleasure.
Tonight, and sharing yourself and all what you're working on and what's in your heart and your soul. And I really, really appreciate it. Mary Kunesh, everybody. Mary Kunesh.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mary Kunesh, please. Please.
Thank you.
All right, that's our show for tonight, everybody. I'm just going to thank some people here. Mary Kunesh again, please. And Jaspar Lepak. And Shanan Custer. Dae Yang. Silvia Pontaza. Zippy Laske. Thank you to our live captioner, Marcia Busson. Thanks to our engineer, John Robinson, and our wonderful crew, Kate Sandvik and Kathy Tower. Thank you for taking our pictures. Welcome to the island. And thank you to our amazing volunteer, Carolyn Denton, and to the Crooner Supper Club. And thank you to Nancy Scott and David O'Connor for paying for the accessibility elements for tonight. Please visit our website at islandofdiscardedwomen.com and find out about our next shows and everything else. And we'll be back soon with another live Island of Discarded Women. Thank you, everybody. I'm Sue Scott. Good night.